Hello, welcome to what I hope will be um, a living textbook, a way to teach emergence. And um, if you are watching this, I am so happy to have you in our world. Please know that. I have long tried to write things, create things, make videos, find a way to teach these things, which are under the umbrella of an emergent school. And quite honestly, I am still struggling to find a way in. Um, it is January 2022, and I am about 6 months into the first students going through the university, and I can say I probably am learning as much about teaching this as they are learning emergence, all of you. Um, Already we have students who will be coming in August this year, our second year, and although we're very small, I have high hopes that this will be the beginning, the seeds of a better world. Um, the first page, slide, drawing in this book, if you look at it, the title of the drawing says Manual for Emergence Practitioners. And I first drew this drawing somewhere around the late 90s, perhaps 1998 or 1999. And early in the 2000s, we had a group, an emergence group, and I would make a binder, a large binder, about 5-inch spline thick, filled with drawings that were just like this. And this drawing was on the cover of that binder. This drawing represents the beginning of everything that I have discovered. It is what underlies every single thing that you could possibly learn about in this school. It is an odd phrase. It is the phrase, the two that are one. And while it might seem that you could understand this in a few minutes or so, the truth is that this is the key to understanding anything and everything in our world. This simple little phrase, the two that are one. The drawing that was on that manual, the one that you see on this page, is the first time that I write that down. In the center in the title, you can see that it says the two that are one. It represents everything in our world, and that in this very primitive sense of the drawing, it is saying that everything in our world has a physical presence and a non-physical presence that back then I called spiritual. The word has since taken on much more specific meanings. But in the drawing, on each side of that middle composite, are pairs of opposites, twos that are ones. So on one side of the drawing are thoughts. On the other side, I write emotions. Again, these words have taken on much richer meanings over the past 3 decades, but they are opposites. A thought is an idea, a thought. This is a face. This is a video. Emotion is more like the colors that fill in the outlines that the idea creates. Rather than go through all of this, let me give you some examples. Like, what preceded this? Where did this come from? it came from a period in which I was at pain, in pain, a lot of pain, over my inability to understand the world. Sometime in the 90s, in the early 90s, I realized that I fit the profile for a person on the autism spectrum, then called Asperger's. And although I have learned to be bilingual, meaning that I can exist in that world and speak that way, or I can live in the more social world and I can speak that way. At the time, having being on the autism spectrum made me suffer because I could not understand so much of what people spoke about. I didn't understand why people talked about the weather, or the game last night, or why they spent so much time deciding on which kind of grass to reseed their lawns with. To me, all of these things they had no value to me. And I am welling up a little bit right now because I recognize that the two that are one that's here is that I was so immersed in thought. That was so the way that I experienced the world, that the emotional side of the world, the spiritual side, the meaning of having a lawn that looks beautiful, the meaning of it, personally, I didn't even consider that such a thing existed. Ironically, behind my little house, my townhouse, which is a little square area of what would have been lawn, I let the grass grow there until it looked like wheat. And I sometimes would sit while I was meditating and look out the window behind my house and look at it sway in the wind or sometimes in the rain. And you talk about something that was spiritual. So here we're talking about another two that are one. Manicured lawns, and my having grass that went wild and swayed in the wind and just looked so beautiful to me. Finding the spiritual in things is a lot of what the Emergence School is about. And those spiritual things are in everything. But in order to see it, we must see the physical things and vice versa. There are people who only see spiritual things, who only can sense the value in spiritual things, and they see no value in the material world. This pair of opposites is what we are. We are both things, and if you look at the drawing, this manual cover, that's what it is representing. That we, human beings, have a spiritual self and a physical self, and they are equally valuable, but more than that, who we are is something that emerges only when we can love both at the same time. When we can see the value in both sides of ourselves and of other people at the same time. Something magical emerges, something human, something far more than the sum of its parts, which is, as you're going to come to find out, the meaning of the word emergence. So, how about a little bit about what that word means? In about 1989 or 1990, a friend of mine recommended a book. I didn't read very many books then. I don't know why. I was involved. I was a musician. That was what I was immersed in since I was 15, and had some minor successes, but that was my love. And this was a book titled Chaos, written by a man who probably would be mad at me if I said it, but he's certainly on the autism spectrum. His writing is so clear that it's my native language, and that's my way of seeing it. Not because he's not social or has no friends or makes bad eye contact or any of that nonsense, but rather because of the way that his mind is so skewed towards well-organized, perfectly clear words. He wrote a book that was a kind of survey of all the people at the time in science who were now doing work that could be seen under the umbrella of chaos theory. A lot of people disliked that then. Nonlinear systems. What does all that mean? It means things like the weather, the word fractal. It means so many things. The study of turbulence. All of those things in science have analogies to things in human personality and the mind. That wasn't in this book. And so I read that book, and when I saw this idea about fractality, fractals, things that are infinitely rich and so on, it woke something up in me that has never gone to sleep since. And it wasn't from the book itself. The book does not apply to the mind. And I took all the things there and began to have it bake in me. Now, during this period, I was, from the middle 80s to the late 90s, I was in agony about this realization that I'm so different from other people and I don't understand how to fit in, and I seem to hurt people's feelings without ever intending it all the time, and I want to understand all of that and what is wrong with me. And I tried many different variations of therapies, and although there were some very kind people who helped me, no one caused me to have this word, this experience, an emergence. No one helped me to wake up in a way that I felt I had learned something beautiful about myself or about the world. So it isn't just realization, emergence. It is seeing beauty, being amazed. So the two that are one. An example are the two gases, hydrogen and oxygen. And gases, as all of you have learned at some time in school, high school science or something, gases have properties. Okay. But if you combine hydrogen and oxygen in just the right way and in just the right proportions, and all of you know, you think you know where I'm going, that I'm going to say, and you get water. I mean, it's true. But the emergent property of doing that, going from two gases to water to a liquid, the emergent property is wetness. There is no way to have predicted that wetness would come from combining two things which have no wetness. Never. And yet here it happens. And the same thing is on the cover of this little manual. There is no way to predict, let alone to know in its entirety ever, what it is to be a human being. Because we are physical parts and spiritual parts, but we are combined in the same way as oxygen and hydrogen. And we have the same flimsiness and kind of nebulous existence, the parts, and yet put together. Well, just think of the first time you ever looked at a baby, an infant's face, and couldn't look away, because that is so beautiful what you see. What words can describe that? There are none. But that is exactly the same thing as the hydrogen and oxygen being combined. The physical and spiritual parts combine to create a new being, and that new being is amazing and amazes us. Yeah. So this is a rambling beginning to what I hope will be a rather amazing and life-changing journey during this 4 years. And I am so happy that you're joining in this journey to make a difference in the world and to leave it a better place for you having lived. So, a warm welcome.